Hello. Oh! How you doing? My stream tonight is going to be a little bit different. It's called Options and Choices. In life, and in certain times of our life, sometimes we have in certain areas of life, we'll have at certain times we'll have unlimited options to choose from. In other situations, we don't have a lot of options, but we're always making a choice, are we not? Even with limited options, we make a choice. And that's what this stream is going to be tonight. A little bit abstract, but I'm going to get to the point. Okay? I'm going to give an example of what, when times in your life when you have limited options, but you're still making a choice. Good example of this would be when I was in high school. There was these school clubs. Everyone had to join one or go to study hall. But unfortunately, the clubs I wanted to join I didn't qualify for, and the ones that the clubs that I wanted to be a part of. But the clubs that would accept me, the clubs that I could join, well, I didn't like them. They were terrible, horrible. I just didn't like them. They didn't sound like much fun at all. And I told that to my teacher. Now I was given a choice, either join a club or go study hall. I chose study hall because I wasn't going to take it. I wasn't going to eat shit for nobody. That's how I feel about it. Now, like I said, there are times in our life, and it depends on the situation, we're going to have a lot of options. We're going to have a lot of options. Unfortunately, we make choices, and even with limited options or multiple options, we all make a choice. For example, another example would be I had to make a choice. And the point I'm trying to make here is that a lot of young men today, a lot of men, even my age, have a choice. The average guys, the guys that are not Chad, not good looking, they're not charming, but we produce. We're given a limited choice. We're given a limited option. Now this option is a simple option. You can date a single mother, and I won't, or you can die alone, unless you're willing to get your passport and pay a lot of money for plane tickets. I didn't know you had a stroke, Brian. Brian, I've been looking for that short you did with the MMD, with the goblins. I love that one. I wonder where that went. The Nasty Goblin short we did with MMD in it. Oh, I used to laugh my butt off of that one. My little goblins. Slingshot Warrior. It's so hilarious. I've been looking for that one too. That one was funny. Okay, are you Brian K? Anyway, That being said, we're talking about options and choices here. Now, I'm getting to the point here where if you live in America, or let's say Europe, and you're an average guy, you don't look like you're not charming, but you produce, you get by. You know what I mean? You get by. Your options are limited, but you got to make a choice. And so the options a lot of men make is, and here's the two choices that a lot of men are given in the West: either date a single mother and become a stepdad, or die alone. A lot of men, and a lot of men in numbers, have said, "I'd rather die alone." That tells you something. Even given a limited choice, even only given two options, men chose not to date single mothers. Interesting, isn't it? When you have limited options and you choose not. I think that's up to God, Brian. It ain't up to me. How you doing, Edward? So I ask of you this, to you men out there: if you're given the choice between being a stepdad to a single mother, or being alone, which one would you rather choose? Because I chose what I chose. Well, yeah, a lot of men have chose life. They chose their hobbies. They chose to live alone. Like hell, I'm going to date a single mother. No way. Well, Edward, I'll put it this way. You'll have no authority. You'll always be like fourth place in that relationship. It's not worth it. And a lot of men have spoken. Limited options, but they would rather choose to brave it alone. Isn't it interesting? Isn't it ironic? Exactly, bullfrog. But a lot of men are given that choice in the West. It's not a great option, isn't it? You got two options in the West for a lot of times, you young men out there. I don't think you understand. You never been around single mothers, Edward. I would don't be so naive. I'm going to tell you. You're young. You don't know. I have to send you some things. Younger men can be a little bit more naive. You know what I mean? But I will say this. Edward is. I would say this: where a lot of men your age have decided not to date single mothers. So I don't know. A lot of. And that's a very true situation. The best decision is not to date single mothers. That's the best decision. I'll tell you why, because it comes with a lot of baggage. And that's exactly what's happening, Bullfrog. Have you checked the statistics? Men, given the choice between becoming a stepdaddy to a single mother, or living alone and dying alone. Well, they're choosing live alone option. It's interesting, isn't it? I find this interesting. You know? Don't you? So, and let's be honest here. A lot of men in the West, the average man in the West doesn't have a lot of options. So his choices are limited. Unless you go overseas, let's say to East Asia, Eastern Europe, maybe Estonia or something like that. And you got a little more options there. You know, if you do. Exactly. You got to make the right decisions. I mean, yeah, I agree with that. But, you know, I was given a choice. I had a choice to make. And people wanted me to date single mothers. And I said, no. You know, I said, no, I'm not going to do it. It's not worth it. It's not worth the problems, the headaches, the hassle of being a stepdaddy. Won't do it. I'm happy with my choice. I got my hobbies. And, oh, by the way, I got my job. I got a job. Took me a while. I had to go outside my area to get one. Exactly. I'm not going to say, Bullfrog. I don't say too much. I'm not going to say where I work and what I do now. You know how that is. I keep that private. Anyway, but the point is, all right, I thank you, Bullfrog. Anyway, yeah, we have.
It's been really fun doing this live.
Oh shit! Accidentally hit some. Yeah, well, you know, and you know, when your choices are limited, you got to choose something right. I mean, now some people would say that I chose wrong. That I chose living alone. Sorry to hear that, bro. I'm sorry to hear that, Edward. Anyway, this is not one of my regular streams. I want to say that. I just want to put that out there. But yeah, but the whole topic is about choices. We do too on this side of the coast, particularly on the Gulf Coast. All right. Well, like I said, choices, choices, choices. All right. All right, we got 7 views. At least give me 3 likes, 8 views. But yeah. Now, options, you know, depending on where you are. For example, I'm going to give you another example of what choices and options are. For example, in America, we have a lot of options for self-defense. A lot of options. A lot of options for hunting. When it comes to weapons, we have a lot of options. In other countries, not so much. But even with limited options, there still are choices. Still things you can get. Still things that you can get to fortify yourself. Amen. I'm getting something, Bullfrog. Anyway, so that's another example. Now, another example when it comes to options, when a woman is young in this current society, she has a lot of options. A lot of options. A lot of men want to date her. She makes a lot of choices. A lot of times, well, she makes bad choices, and then she either becomes a lonely cat lady or a single mom these days. And there we have it. Mm-hmm. You know, having options and an abundance of options happens different times in your life when and depends on who you are. So options, and it depends on the situation that you're in. Some situations you'll have a lot of options, and you can make a choice depending on where you're going to go. Other situations, not a lot of options. So you have to make a choice. Depends on where you are, who you are, and the time, and what time in your life it is. What time in your life it is. So I want to keep that one in mind, But above all else, I guess you got to play the cards you've been dealt. Another thing options is, and you can't resent. And another thing you can't do, you can't resent the fact you don't have the same options other people do. Other people will have, how can I say, they will resent other people who have more options than they do. We call those communists. We call those Antifa types. Okay? Look, don't resent people because they have more options than you do. We can't control the cards we've been played. We can play them to the best of our ability. Like I said, this was not going to be a regular stream. So play the cards you've been dealt, weigh in your options, make a choice. How you doing, Sabrina? All right, Sabrina, this stream is about options and choices. Now, we were talking about various options and choices. Now, I guess I'll have to recap it for you. I went into yeah, that's not, they don't have good options there. Bullfrog. But they had options before and they made their choice, so that's. So let me recap it for you, okay? I started out with talking about how, depending on where you are, depending on what time you're in your life, and depending on who you are, some people are going to have more options than others. But we all make choices, okay? We all make choices depending on the options that we have at the time. And this could be And, in certain situations, you could have limited options. Other situations, abundance of options. It depends on what time, what place, who you are. Okay. Giving that to the point, I'm giving you the recap example. When I was in high school, I was told that I had to join one of these scholastic clubs. These clubs, these clubs that that you had to join or go to study hall. Yeah, and they gave me a list of clubs. The ones I liked, I didn't qualify for, and the ones that didn't sound too great, I didn't want to join because they sound like I really wasn't interested. So I chose study hall. Me being the stubborn bastard I am. Well, I chose not to join any club because they were not giving me, because the ones I wanted to join, I didn't qualify for, and the ones that, that I felt like they wanted me to eat shit and like the taste, and I wasn't going to do that. I'd rather choose study hall than basically join a club that I really wasn't interested in. That's how it worked for me. And I was talking about this, and this is the one thing I'm going to bring up in the recap. Okay. And when I went to that, I was talking about how a lot of men today, average men, young and older, at least in the West, are given a choice. Given limited options when it comes to dating. So we have two choices. We can either date a single mother and become a stepdaddy, or go our own way, or just live alone and not deal with it and stop dating altogether. Now, I made the choice to stop dating because I didn't want to date a single mother. I really didn't want to do that. A lot of men have chose not to date single mothers because they're more trouble than they're worth. So, although I had limited options, I chose to be single and die alone. Than be a stepdaddy. How you doing, Brain Dad? So that's the recap. And a lot of men are choosing to be single. So this is about options and choices. If I get my passport, Bullfrog. But that's the choice that a lot of men have made. I made the choice that I'd rather live alone. We're not talking about politics here, Musk. Well, that's good, but they're rare, Bullfrog. And hello, Hollywood land. God, I hate Hollywood. Exactly, Hollywood. Exactly. So I chose peace over worn out peace leave. Cool, Hollywood. Why do you think they're doing that, Sabrina? Why do you think? I mean, for a man, there's not much women, like actual women left. Women who act like women, who have, are feminine, are actually good looking. Exactly. And that's all you're going to get a lot of times if you're older and you're dating. A lot of the women that go on dates, they have got kids. It's not worth it. Good for you. Would explain why they didn't want to marry one or date one, Sabrina. Maybe, maybe it's hard to find that in the West these days. Have you noticed that women act more like men? They do. You don't want to deal with them anymore. You don't want to deal with the modern woman. Women aren't women anymore. They're not. Yeah, well, that will do it. I was raised by my dad, but I was around kids who were raised by single moms. They didn't turn out too well. I've met single moms. I've known a few. I noticed something that only felons are willing to date single moms. You regular men, no. Yeah, it's terrible. Yeah, but it makes you sound masculine, Sabrina. I'm just telling you, like it is. Yeah, and that's the best thing for it, Bullfrog, I would say. But I want to make the difference between single moms and widows. Some people will try to lump in widows with single mothers, and that's entirely not true. Widows have had a husband, but he died. That's the big difference. He dead. Okay, he died in a tragic accident, or cancer, or whatever, or got murdered, whatever. Let's make the difference between a widow. A widow is more respectable than a single mother. Way more respectable, in my opinion. Way more respectable. Because they actually had a man. She was married to a man. She had a husband. Bad things happened, you know? Sabrina. But yeah, you heard what I said, Yanni. So never lump in single mothers with widows. Don't do it. They're different. Single mothers chose to be where they are. They made stupid mistakes. They made bad life choices. Single mothers made bad life choices. That's the reason why they are there. They are in the situation they're in. Gee, I wonder why that is. Acting like a lady is important. No. Really? That wasn't disrespectful? Okay, I'm alone and single. Doesn't mean I want some stupid shit. I don't like poop shooters. You know. Oh boy, a lot of times that's not the case, Yanni. And if and let's not forget that let's not forget the woman chooses the man they want to be with. You know, a lot of times women are choosing men who are not family oriented, who are just bad boys that make them feel good. You know what I mean? But they're not responsible men. They're not men with jobs, not with regular jobs. They're felons. And you feel sympathy for women who basically choose terrible men to breed with because it makes her feel so good. She likes the emotional roller coaster. To that I say, you got no pity coming from me. I'm playing the world's smallest violin. Yeah. Well, you are one of the very few men that does, because most men like peace in a relationship. They like order. They want to come home to a peaceful home. They want to come home to like the 1950s. How was your day, dear? I have your slippers, dear, and your pipe. And I made dinner, dear. We don't get that. You know what we get? You know, a lot of married men would get when they come home. It's not the good stuff. It's like, oh, you did this, blah, 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 blah. Like hen packing constantly. That's why men aren't getting married anymore. Yes, but a lot of times, brain dead. Exactly. And a lot of men have decided not to go with that. Yeah, we have limited options. Right now, we do. We have limited options. I said that there's new technology that's about to emerge on the market. It's already emerging. It's going to change the game. Bullfrog. Bullfrog, can you get rid of Mr. OK? No way. Time for you to go. So, given the choice between that or that, now I would go overseas and find myself a nice woman. Thank you, Bullfrog. I already got 12 likes, and so we got 4 likes and 12 views. I didn't expect this to be a real popular stream, but I decided to go with it. But I did make my point about choices and options. But yeah, men can be happy by ourselves. I want to make that point very clear. Men can be happy by ourselves because we have hobbies. We have things to keep ourselves together. We can go places. It's not a good place. I'll tell you why. It's not the best. But you want to get out. Mexico can be, to a certain extent, an extension of the Western world. You want to get a non-Westernized woman, particularly from East Asia, would be good, or Eastern Europe. Thank you, Sabrina. Now, my birthday party is coming up. We're going to have a great time. So this is very good. But, but I'll say this. I'm not going to get, jealous because someone has more options than me. That's not, you can't live life as a jealous person because you weren't given all the cards that someone else got. You got to play the cards you've been dealt. I'm not going to get mad at somebody because they got a car, get mad at somebody because they got a big house. I'm not going to do that. I'm just not. Thank you. Thank you. But at the same time, exactly, Bullfrog. You can't be mad at that. At the same time, ladies, you can't be mad at men if we choose not. To the single mothers out there, you can't be mad at us if we choose not to date you. When we're given a very limited option between you or the road, a lot of people will choose the road. You know what I mean? Or they'll choose to get their passport and go overseas. That's just how it is. In the future, they're going to be buying robots. In the near future, which is technology's emerging, they're going to be buying robots. We're talking about lifelike female robots. Oh, yeah. Philippines, Eastern Europe, things of that nature. Countries of that nature. All right. I think the feminism is the reason why we have declining birth rates. One of the major reasons we have declining birth rates is feminism. Is feminist power, feminist laws. I think our birth rates would go right up if basically men were brought back, if men were given power back in their homes and families. Exactly, Sabrina. For example, I'll give you an example. There's some good news out here. In Kentucky, the state of Kentucky, did two things recently. They banned no-fault divorce, and they have shared parenting. And how ironic is they banned in the state of Kentucky no-fault divorce and instituted shared parenting. And what do you know? The divorce rate in Kentucky went down dramatically. Like, we're talking down 70%. Number two, they got DNA testing at birth. And they made paternity fraud, which is basically a woman claiming another guy as the daddy, a crime. Interesting. So there is change coming. And a lot of other states want to adopt shared parenting laws. The end of no-fault divorce. I know. I'm just telling you what's going on, Sabrina. You take the information. Yeah. You can look up what they did in Kentucky. So Kentucky is the first to get rid of these anti-family, no-fault divorce laws. Thank you, Sabrina. Like I said, it all comes down to your options and the choices you make. And ladies, when you're young, you have a lot of options. But you make your choices. You have to live with them. You can't blame men when you made bad choices. That's what I get sick and tired of. You had a lot of options and you made your choices. And all of a sudden, when your options dry up, you want to blame men. To that, I say, to the ladies out there who want to blame men when their options dry up, when basically when they age out of the dating market, shut the fuck up. Stop complaining. Stop blaming all men for your choices in men. Stop it. You know what I mean? Stop blaming all men because you made some bad choices in men. You chose men that were good for nothing. You knew they were good for nothing. And you knew that they really wasn't into you. They just like to smash. Yeah. Okay. So just don't come bitching to me that all men are this, all men are that. When you chose the men that you were sleeping with. You chose the men. You knew they were good for nothing. You knew it. The red flags were there. Except this guy got your heart fluttering. Ooh. He's such a All right. Well, I think I've said enough. I will end it like this. Regardless of what your options are, at any given moment, depending on who you are, you still have a choice. Choose wisely. God bless you. All glory goes to God.